In this lesson, we're going to begin to discuss trading style. There are many different trading styles available to the markets. There's a lot of different traders that trade by a lot of different methodologies. And so we're going to start talking about how we're going to visualize the market, some of the components we're going to use when we look at charts. And what I can tell you is after taking this course, you're never going to look at a chart, whether it's a chart of the S&P E-mini futures contract or a chart of a stock, another commodity, or anything else whatsoever. You're never going to look at those charts the same again, because what we're going to do is train ourselves to look for specific things that warrant specific types of trades. Because there are so many different types and varieties of trading styles, it really makes more sense to narrow it down and focus in on something that works, get really good at it, continuously improve, and that's the way we find success with trading. When we narrow down something that works and get really good at it. There's momentum trading, there's trading off of 1-minute charts, there's trading off of 3-minute charts. There's all kinds of different trading styles and using various indicators. And incidentally, most of those indicators really don't work, and let me explain why. If you've used a lot of these indicators, you have to realize that in order for an indicator to produce data that's showing up on your chart, it has to take data from the past. And that's fine, but all it's doing is showing you what already happened and helping you to at least try and extrapolate what might happen in the future. What I'm going to show you is a way you don't need any of those indicators. We're going to look at chart patterns, and we're going to be able to identify with a pretty good level of precision what's going to happen next the majority of the time. So considering that, our main focus is chart patterns, support, and resistance. Let me explain that a little further. Here's a list of common chart patterns that you'll find throughout most of the trading books. If you've ever read or bought any of the books on trading, you'll find chart patterns that sound like this, and there's other fancy names for some other chart patterns. What we're going to do is we're not going to have to memorize all these names, and you're not going to have to know what all these chart patterns are. The way in which I teach is I'm going to help you to identify the chart patterns that are important and the chart patterns that repeat over and over again, and the ones that we can play for positive trades. And they're found all within this list that you see in front of you, but we don't need the fancy names. We're going to narrow it down to simplify everything. And the other very important component of what we're going to do is utilize support and resistance zones. I'm going to teach you how to find the highest probability support and resistance zones, and you'll understand that when we get into all the charts that we're going to look at, and you're going to have charts on top of charts on top of charts. We're going to be dreaming about charts. We're going to use support and resistance for a multitude of reasons. Support areas are meant to be bought. Resistance areas are meant to be sold. Support areas are also meant to be targets on the way down if we're short a market. Resistance can also be a target on the way up when we're in a long trade. These are all the things that we're going to unpack in depth throughout this course. We're just getting started. One of the main foundational aspects of what I'm teaching is institutional value areas. And it sounds complicated. Let me actually unpack that a little bit and explain really what this is. When traders learn that the control of the markets lie in the hands of the institutions, and when I say institutions, I'm referring to the large hedge funds, the proprietary trading desks, the big brokers, the institutional money managers, the mutual funds, the pension funds, all of the above. These are the big players with the big money, and they're the ones that control the markets on a regular basis, day in, day out. And once traders understand that 80, 85, maybe 90% of the total volume in the market comes from the institutional traders, then they can begin to understand that there's no possible way that you can fight the institutions. You have to trade with the institutions. You have to trade alongside the institutions. Therefore, you need to understand where the institutional value areas are, where the institutional support and the institutional resistance points are. Where are the institutions going to be making their buying and selling decisions. That's what we're interested to know. And once you can begin to understand that knowing that information gives you an advantage, because we're not looking for anything other than where the institutions are most likely to make buying and selling decisions. Once you can understand how they make their buying and selling decisions, we can understand how to trade alongside them, and we can begin to understand how to find success across the markets. That's what this is all about, finding the areas and play right alongside the institutions. We can think of it as analogous to the show Shark Tank. If anybody is familiar with Shark Tank, it's basically a series of people that act as venture capital investors, and the entrepreneurs come and pitch their case and see if they can get an investment and a partnership from the sharks. Well, this is the same thing. You want to be on the same team as the sharks. You want them on your team. You don't want to fight the sharks because you're likely to lose. They have more money, more power, and more information. You want to be on the same team as the sharks. It's the same thing with the institutional traders. Be on the same team as the institutional traders. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. From this point forward, we're going to start picking up the pace. We're going to start looking at charts, and we're going to start really understanding the language of charting techniques, charting patterns, and basically charts themselves. So in the following lessons, we're going to begin to understand exactly how the market works. In the end, you're going to be able to look at any chart and tell anybody whether it should be going up or down based on the highest probability scenario going forward.